All right, welcome back to Racing Rundown. Today we got a preview for the Grade 1 Hollywood Gold Cup. I know as a person who has called this race back when it was still referred to as the Gold Cup at Santa Anita, I called it the Hollywood Gold Cup out of protest. And the Stronach Group came out last week and they said they are renaming it back to the old Hollywood Gold Cup, which makes a lot of people, not just me, very happy to see the old name back. But just to very quickly talk about this race, the field going into this race, you've got 6 horses in here. The 1 is Parsimony, number 2, Midcourt, number 3, Higher Power, number 4, Brown Storm, 5 is Improbable, and 6 is Tenfold. A little bit disappointed, both Eric and myself are. We were kind of hoping we'd get to see the debut of Game Winner, the champion 2-year-old from 2018 in this race. Game Winner still not quite ready for a Grade 1 race of this caliber yet. Hopefully we'll see him at some point. Both of us have been looking forward to seeing this horse whenever the time does come for his next run. But, the theme with this race right here is these 6 horses right here. Higher Power really is the only one that I could say could threaten to be in the not even the upper echelon, but like the mid-tier level of horses. But this is a lot of horses that are in the handicap division, especially the distance side of it, are just kind of on the outside looking in. There's not really any spectacular horses out here. The older horses out in California have not been particularly great the past couple of years. Accelerate was great in 2018. We didn't really have a really good standout last year, and this year it's kind of also looking the same, at least from the West Coast. But taking a look at the 6 horses in here, I want to first touch on Higher Power. Higher Power broke through last year in the Pacific Classic. That was the big win of his career. He ran in the Hollywood Gold Cup last year, ran 5th in that race. He had been all over the allowance level. Actually, he ran in the Rebel as a 3-year-old, but had been bouncing around the allowance level. Ran 5th in that, as I already mentioned, ran 5th in that. But broke through in the Pacific Classic, then ran 3rd, consecutive 3rds, I should say, at Santa Anita, in the Awesome again, and in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and then was one of the favored horses in the Pegasus World Cup and turned in an absolutely dud performance, running 10th and last in that race. Higher Power left so much to be desired in that race. And, that's the thing that would hold me back from saying he's the best horse in this race, because, you would think he has the Grade 1 win in California last year. He has the 2/3 at Santa Anita, but then that effort in the Pegasus World Cup was not a good effort at all, and it was not his first time shipping out of California either. He actually started at Remington Park as a 2-year-old, and since then has not really, it's not really up until the Pacific Classic, had not really run anything spectacular, obviously, until winning that. But I would say that this would be the horse that is the leader of this race, and he is, but I'm very lukewarm on him because of that very poor effort he turned out last time in the Pegasus World Cup. I want to get to another horse, Midcourt, who has run, is another one of those horses that has been running at Santa Anita in their stakes races out here, and has been running pretty well. Going back to October of last year, he ran in the Comet to the Top Stakes, won that, then won the Native Diver at Del Mar, but then ran a very, very iffy 3rd in the San Antonio, but then came back and won the San Pasquale. And it looked like that Midcourt would be the type of horse that would be able to win a race like the Santa Anita Handicap, which was his next start. And especially with, initially we got the news that Gift Box was going to be running out in Dubai, so he wasn't going to have to deal with Gift Box. But then the connections, Horonis and John Sadler decided to stay stateside, and he ended up scratching from that race. But Combatant, the other John Sadler horse, ended up winning, and Midcourt also ran 3rd in that race. So, again, another thing with Midcourt, kind of the same thing with Higher Power, is he's been running, I don't want to say consistently, because I don't want to give the wrong impression, but he's been running decent races at Santa Anita and Del Mar over the past year and a half, something like that. He ran poorly in his first 2 maiden races at Los Al and then at Santa Anita, but then ran second, and then finally in his fourth try broke his maiden in June of last year. Then won an allowance race, and then won the Comet of the Top, followed by the Native Diver, and then had the first and third that we've already touched on. But Midcourt and Higher Power are two of the same types of horses. They have been very inconsistent in stakes races, and I'm very wary of picking them in races like this, but they look to be two of the better horses in this race, so I really don't know where to go with both of those horses in terms of what kind of race they can run, because they could run a bang-up race or they could run a poor race, so it remains to be seen what's going to happen with them. The next horse that I want to get to is I just want to briefly touch on Brown Charlie Brown. He's been running in Santa Anita. He was 4th in the San Marcos and 4th in the Santa Anita Handicap this year. Last race was the Hollywood Turf Cup. He's been all over the place. Don't really expect much from him, but it is worth mentioning that he did fill out the Superfecta, so you could see him. You might get something with him if you're one that wants to throw a long shot in at the end of a Superfecta. That's really as far as I would go with him. The next horse that I want to get to Parsimony. Doug O'Neill trained horse ran a very nice race in the Curlin Stakes out in Dubai. He's been very all over the place. He was running the ran second in the Los Al Derby behind Game Winner, and then hadn't yet to break his maiden in that race, and ultimately did not break his maiden until the 5th of October at Santa Anita. But he, like I mentioned, he's been all over the place running in stakes races. That second in the Los Al Derby was pretty good. But, he was 8th and 14th in the Rebel and Toyota Bluegrass, respectively. And, he's been on the grass. He's been on the dirt. You really just don't know what you're going to get from this horse. He's been all over the place. He's a big wild card here. I don't know. He could run up to the race that he ran in the Los Al Derby, or he could run last. I would not pick Parsimony for anything. He's kind of a wild card, but just wanted to mention him as well. The next horse we're going to get to is the number 5 horse, Improbable. Finally breaks the string of getting stuck in the outside post. Most recently, last start out, he was slated to run, I should say, in the Oaklawn Handicap until he drew the outside post. Bob Baffert realized that he didn't want to run him from the outside post again at Oaklawn. He ran second in the Oaklawn Mile prior to that, so they scratched him. There was some speculation as to whether or not he was going to get the grass. If Eric was on here, Eric would go on the whole spiel about how both of us do think that this horse has the potential to be a better grass horse. Eric is much more gung-ho on the grass than I am. The thing that does encourage me about Improbable here is he does get Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle. And anyone who has watched this horse and seen all of the races that he's run, when this horse gets Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle, he runs his race. He doesn't necessarily win every single time, but he runs his race. Going back to the Oaklawn Mile, very nice second behind Tom's d'Etat, who a lot of us think is the leader in the pack of the older males. If he's not the leader, he's the number 2 or 3 horse, and Improbable ran second behind him with Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle. He won the Shared Belief Stakes at Del Mar, also with Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle. He ran second behind Long Range Toddy in the Rebel as a 3-year-old with Drayden Van Dyke. His 3 wins as a 2-year-old all came with Drayden. This horse runs his race with Drayden Van Dyke, and I could not feel better about Improbable than I could with Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle. So that's why I would definitely say Improbable with Drayden Van Dyke in the saddle is so much more of a threat than Improbable with any other jockey in the saddle. And the final horse that we're going to get to in this race is Tenfold, who is another horse that's been all over the place, and is very iffy on what you're going to get from him. He's won races, and he's also run very badly in races. And, if you remember back to the Justified Triple Crown Trail, he ran 3rd in the Preakness behind Justified, was 5th in the Belmont, has won the Jim Dandy at Saratoga, but then Classic Tenfold ran 7th in the Travers. Came back, won the Pimlico, came back from running in various other races, and then won the Pimlico Special on the 17th of May, and then proceeded to follow that up with a 9th place effort in the Stephen Foster. Followed that up with a 4th in the Pacific Classic, then was 8th in the Lucas Classic. Churchill, again, this horse has just been all over the place. 2 runs this year, have come in the Pegasus World Cup, where he was 6th and 3rd in the New Orleans Classic. New Orleans Classic was a really tough race with By My Standards, who Eric considers to be the leader of the pack for older males, and who I think is pretty much in a dead heat with Tom's d'Etat at this point. By My Standards is a really nice horse. But again, that was a nice effort for Tenfold, but with him, you don't know what you're going to get. He's all over the place, and not really a horse you can put any kind of faith in. So, this Hollywood Gold Cup is very weird, because there's all the horses in here have disappointed consistently. They've all won races, and they've all run poorly in races. With the exception of Parsimony. Parsimony really hasn't won anything big, and neither has Brownstorm, but the top 4 in this race, Midcourt, Higher Power, Improbable, Tenfold, they've been all over the place. So, this is the type of race where it's kind of a bit of a crapshoot. You take a shot with whoever. I wouldn't say that taking a shot with a horse like Parsimony or Brownstorm is the dumbest idea. I wouldn't do it, but with the track record that that the 4 top horses in this race have, that wouldn't be the worst decision to make. So with all that being said, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I went on the whole Drayden Van Dyke and Improbable tangent. I'm going to take Improbable here with Drayden Van Dyke. I never thought I would take Improbable in a Grade 1 race ever, but I will take him. I will have Higher Power running 2nd, and I will finish out the trifecta with Midcourt running 3rd. One final note of advice, you could throw any of these top 4 horses, any order. If you're the type of person who wants to play a superfecta, you can literally throw darts at a dartboard with this top 4. That's how wide open it is and how inconsistent all these horses are. With that being said, I will take Improbable here to win with Higher Power 2nd and Midcourt 3rd. Good luck this weekend, especially with this race if you do decide to play it. And thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.
Running a huge one, then Tenfold, homeward bound in the big one, and it's Higher Power in full flight for the wire. He's opened up to lead by 2.5. Draft Pictors chasing gaily. Mongolian Grooms run a huge one, but not quite good enough to win it. It's Higher Power striding home in the TVG Pacific Classic. Basically, he never gave them a chance. Higher Power and Flavion Pratt win well. Draft Pick 2nd. Mongolian Groom a great 3rd.